Did you know this orphan girl could have been killed for even entering the king's room? Yet God had chosen her to save an entire nation, and the sky itself watched as history turned. In the vastness of the heavens, beyond the reach of any human eye, God's providence weaves threads of destiny into the tapestry of history. Even when kingdoms rise and fall, and the world seems dark and chaotic, His hand moves unseen. Among the countless lives He watches, there was one young girl, an orphan named Hadassah, known later by her Persian name Esther. She was Jewish, born to a people scattered far from their homeland. Raised by her cousin Mordecai in the city of Susa, she lived quietly, hidden from the eyes of a powerful empire. Her home was humble, her life simple, yet God had placed her in a story far greater than she could imagine. As Scripture says, "For such a time as this you have been chosen." The Persian Empire was vast, stretching from India to Ethiopia, ruled by King Xerxes, a man of immense power and wealth. His throne in Susa gleamed with gold, and his decrees reached across 127 provinces. But even in the heart of such splendor, the stage for divine purpose was being set. King Xerxes celebrated his power with a feast lasting 180 days, displaying riches, strength, and glory before the leaders of his empire. Wine flowed freely, and music filled the grand halls. Meanwhile, Queen Vashti held her own feast for the women of the palace. On the seventh day, the king, pleased with his own magnificence, commanded that Queen Vashti appear before the guests, wearing her crown, so that all could admire her beauty. But Vashti refused. Her defiance angered the king, and pride wounded his heart. Advisors warned him that allowing such defiance to stand would set a dangerous precedent, so a decree was issued throughout the empire. Vashti was banished, and every man would rule his household. Though the empire celebrated, the heavens watched quietly. The removal of Queen Vashti was not the end, but the beginning of God's plan. Time passed, and the king's advisors sought a new queen. Young women from all corners of the empire were brought to Susa. Among them was Hadassah, Esther, a girl with humble beginnings, yet marked by grace, courage, and quiet beauty. Under the care of Hegai, the king's eunuch in charge of the women, Esther distinguished herself, not by wealth or influence, but by humility, intelligence, and kindness. God's favor shone upon her. For 12 months, she was prepared to meet the king. When her turn came, Esther entered the throne room with dignity and calm. The king, captivated by her presence, placed the crown on her head, making her queen in place of Vashti. Yet Esther's greatest strength lay not in her royal robes, but in her heart, devoted to God, hidden in plain sight, and ready to serve when the time came. Meanwhile, Mordecai, stationed at the king's gate, witnessed the ebb and flow of the empire. Though he had no official rank, he had a clear purpose: to serve God faithfully, even in obscurity. One day, Mordecai overheard a plot against the king. Two of the king's eunuchs, Bigthan and Teresh, conspired to assassinate Xerxes. Mordecai acted immediately, sending word to Esther, who relayed the warning to the king. The plot was foiled, and the conspirators were executed. Yet Scripture notes, Mordecai recorded these events, but no reward came to him at that time. Esther 2:23. God's plan continued to unfold, often quietly, through acts unnoticed by human eyes. Not long after, Haman, an Agagite, was elevated to the highest rank among the king's officials. All were commanded to bow to him, but Mordecai refused, honoring God above man. Haman's anger burned, not only at Mordecai, but at all the Jewish people. He cast lots, Purim, to determine the day he would exterminate them. With the king's approval and signet ring, a decree went out across the empire: all Jews, young and old, would be destroyed. The Jewish people mourned. Mordecai tore his clothes, put on sackcloth and ashes, and cried out in the streets of Susa. Across the empire, sorrow spread. When Esther learned of Mordecai's mourning, she faced a choice. Approaching the king unsummoned could cost her life. Yet Mordecai reminded her, "Do not think you will escape in the palace. If you remain silent, Deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your family will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther 4:13-14. Esther's heart trembled with fear, but she responded in faith. Go, gather all the Jews in Susa and fast for me. I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. If I perish, I perish. Esther 4:16. 3 days later, dressed in her royal robes, Esther approached the inner court of the king. The golden scepter was extended, sparing her life. The king asked, "What is your request, Queen Esther? Even to half the kingdom it will be granted." Esther invited the king and Haman to a banquet, not revealing her petition immediately. She observed carefully, choosing the moment God had prepared. Celestial light seemed to shine upon her as she acted with courage and wisdom. That night, King Xerxes could not sleep. He ordered the chronicles read. There he discovered Mordecai's loyalty, how he had saved the king's life. Haman, intending to punish Mordecai, was unaware that the king's favor was shifting. At the second banquet, Esther revealed the plot against her people. "If it pleases the king, spare my life and the lives of my people, for we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed." The king's anger turned toward Haman. He was hanged on the very gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. The Jews were saved not by power or armies, but by courage, faith, and God's providence. The king issued a new decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves. On the appointed day they rose united, protected by royal authority. Across the empire, 75,000 enemies were defeated, not for greed but for survival. A festival was established to commemorate God's deliverance, Purim. Each year the Jews would celebrate their salvation, send gifts and give to the poor, remembering how God's unseen hand turned despair into joy. Mordecai was honored, clothed in royal garments, second only to the king. Yet Scripture reminds us, not by power, but by the heart that seeks justice and truth, he was made great. Even though God's name is never explicitly mentioned in the book of Esther, his presence is clear. Every twist, every risk, every reversal was orchestrated by him. What was meant for evil, he turned for good. Genesis 50:20. Esther's story is not just history, it is a message for us today. When God seems silent, he is working. When circumstances seem impossible, he is orchestrating your destiny. Perhaps you, like Esther, are in a place of hiding, of obscurity, of fear. But for such a time as this, God has positioned you. If this story inspired you, remember, God is still at work in your life, even in moments of fear and uncertainty. Share this story, meditate on its lessons, and trust the one who turns despair into deliverance. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Every subscription helps us create more heavenly, biblical stories that reveal God's glory, purpose, and power. For the Lord is good, his steadfast love endures forever.